What's happening, people? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown here for TBL Live, and this is our post-fight reaction to Zhang and Joyce 2. It is repeat. Zhang has absolutely destroyed Joyce in the third round. We're going to talk about it, man. But first of all, let me just introduce you to my co-host right here, the main man, my father. We're right here in the building. We're going to give our reaction to this. Wow, man. Let me just shout out to everybody in the comments as well, those that are about to join. Big up you guys, man. Hit the like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're going to cook tonight. We're going to do some cooking, man. Let's talk about it. Zhang, Joyce 2, the rematch. I was picking Zhang going into this. And when I saw Joyce on the scales, I was even more confident in my pick. Terrible performance from Joyce. He looked tentative. The first round, he didn't really do anything. Both men were kind of just having a look at each other. The second round, Zhang must have seen that Joyce wasn't offering much, and then he started landing that left hand. And then in the third round, it was a beautiful right hook that dropped Joyce for the first time in his career, and he couldn't get up. It was a brutal, clinical performance from Zhang, man. And listen, he might just be my favorite heavyweight right now. I'm not even lying, man.
A lot of people are saying that. I've already seen in my messages a lot of people saying, yo, man, I've just become a big fan of Zhang. You know what I
But I
mean?
was a big fan
A
of
big
Zhang
fan.
after Hergovich. I have to admit, after the Hergovich fight, I was like, nah, I really like this guy. And
Yeah.
ever since then, it's just gone even more and more and more up. And it was brilliant what he did
He's
tonight,
got a
wasn't it?
certain aura about him, innit? He kind of looks, I was saying to my brother Steve today, that he kind of reminds me of the bad guy in the Kung Fu movies. That's not meant to be a disrespect. But you know what I'm saying? He just got that big, you know what I mean? He looks quite intimidating, man. But he seems like a nice guy, though. He seems very, amenable outside the ring, that is, but inside the ring. But listen, man. First of all, I want to say that although it was a devastating finish, it's also quite sad for me because I absolutely believe that we witnessed the end of Joyce's career, certainly at the top level. He's done, man. He's finished.
Really?
Oh, absolutely, he's done. Even
What,
if
you
he
don't
does
think
fight
he'll
on,
bounce back from a loads of
nah,
heavyweights have bounced back from a knockout, man?
nah.
Why can't Joyce?
No, this is that defeat. This last one, I mean, the first one was bad enough when he absolutely got beaten up, hurt, and then stopped. This time he's just been wiped out. And like you said, Daryl, he looked tentative. I would say almost scared in it. Um, yeah, it doesn't look good for him, man. I mean, you know what it's like with boxers. Very few of them want to retire anyway. Even less of those want to retire after a bad loss. But
Let
his
me ask you.
career at the top level is surely over.
Let me
Surely.
ask you. Let me ask you something. What was the thinking behind Joyce putting on the extra weight? Because obviously his team would have known what to do. They've been in there with Zhang already. But why? What was the reason? Because a lot of people were scratching their heads when they saw him at the weigh, and they thought
I,
Joyce doesn't employ a lot of head movement anyway. He's coming in heavier against the guy who was tattooing him with the left hand last time out. What was the reasoning, do you think, behind that? Because it baffled me.
yeah, it baffled me. But then he got knocked out with a right hook. And something that I noticed as well, when Zhang was exiting the ring after, I don't know if you noticed it, but when he was signing autographs, he was actually signing autographs with his right hand, which means he's a converted orthodox fighter, isn't he?
I didn't
So
notice that.
this guy, seriously, man, I want to see him in a world title fight. I want to see him against Fury. You know what I mean? Not that I don't think Fury will take that fight. No way. After what he's done to Joyce in the last two fights, because if anything else, right, Joyce had the reputation as being quite indestructible. Remember all the stories about, the size of his cranium and all the rest of it, him being unnaturally strong and him being able to take punches and the gas tank. Well, Zhang in two fights have just totally blown that to smithereens, hasn't he? Because before that, everyone was saying that Joyce got the best chin. He can walk through shots. He doesn't get hurt. Even when he lost the first fight, everyone was saying, yeah, he took a beating, but he didn't get dropped. Even Zhang landing cleanly couldn't knock him out. Well, tonight he's just knocked him out face first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Big up.
credit goes for even getting up, because normally when fighters fall face first like that, they don't even get up at all. At least he got up. But
Mm.
even if he'd have survived the count, the referee would have had to stop that. He was totally done.
Big up everyone here in the chat, man. WM, I see you, bro. Francisco, Wrestling God, all you guys, man. Michael Maxwell, I see you in here as well. He agrees with you about Joyce should retire. All right,
Yeah.
let me ask you both, because you two, you both know your boxing. You and Michael both know your boxing, obviously. Are we jumping the gun a little bit with the retirement shouts? Is it after every fighter loses, we say, oh, they need to retire? Like, yes, this is the second defeat for Joe Joyce, but you know, before that, everyone was saying, oh, throw him in there with Wilder. Let's see him against Fury. Let's see Joyce do. Now, after 2 losses to the same guy who maybe just has his number, we're saying he should retire. Is it because of his age? What's the reason why?
Well, that's a factor. But what I always say is this: it's best to retire one fight too soon than one fight too late. Joe Joyce is what, 38 years old now.
38, just turned
Um,
38.
he's had back-to-back devastating defeats. The first one, he got beaten up and stopped with a really badly damaged eye, which to me didn't look totally healed. It still looked a bit puffy tonight.
That's what Sandy
Now
says as well.
he's been devastatingly knocked out in 3 rounds. I mean, where is he going, really? Yes, he'll probably carry on. He will fight guys that they can find for him to beat. That's all well and good. He'll, get a couple of lower level paydays. But ultimately, is that really what he came in this game for? He came into this game to win world titles. It's quite evident that he's not going to do that now. Like I said, personally, I would like to see him retire. Same thing I said about Errol Spence, but we're now hearing Errol Spence is seeking a rematch with Crawford. These guys, man, sometimes they're too brave for their own good. That's the only way I can put it. Or sometimes it's not just the bravery, it's the ego and the... these guys have thoughts in their head. It's a sense of delusion, isn't it, if you think about it? And some would argue that you need that sense of delusion to be a successful boxer anyway. But sometimes, man, you just got to be rational and just, you know what I mean, heed the warnings, man. I mean, what was the thing that made Joe Joyce such a formidable fighter? Was the chin, wasn't it? Everyone
And
said...
stamina, his engine.
Yeah. Now we've just seen him badly beaten up in the first Zhang fight. Now we see him brutally knocked out face first in this fight. It's over, man. It's over. And of course, his confidence, what's left of his confidence is who knows, because it was noticeable tonight, man, that he looked very tentative. I mean, everybody's always having a go at AJ, saying, oh, he looks tentative, he looks scared. In that first round, I think you would agree with me that Joe Joyce looked extremely tentative.
Very.
So, what that shows is that he's a human being, you know what I mean? And when human beings get badly beaten up and hurt, like he was in the first fight, you're going back in there with a guy that's done that to you. You know what I mean? It must be very disconcerting.
Yeah, I mean, talk about one for your confidence, man. I mean, this is really going to shake his confidence to the core, this defeat here to Zhang. Joyce, he was saying the right things, but I don't know if you noticed it as well, but the ring walk, I don't know, to me, it looked a little bit... Did you notice it as well? Like, it didn't really seem...
It was very low key, wasn't it? Even the crowd didn't seem up for it. It's almost as if they knew what was going to happen, wasn't it? It had that air of inevitability about it, man. There was no energy from Joyce. There was no energy from the crowd. Zhang just took his time in that first round, had a look. You notice he didn't hardly throw a punch in the first round. He just had a look because he knew it was in the bag. He knew it. And I'll tell you a little story as well, right? And this is true. So just before the fight started, I got a call from a family member. And this family member was saying that he knows a couple of people at a gym in northwest London. Gym's not too far from me, actually, where apparently Zhang was working out before the fight. And he was on the pads and working out and doing his thing. And people were literally in the gym saying they were acting amazed at how good he looked. The thud, apparently the boom noise that the pads was making and stuff like that. And they were basically saying in the gym that Joyce has got no chance. I mean, I know you do hear things like that you know, from time to time you hear that, and then sometimes it doesn't pan out the way it's supposed to. But I just thought I'd share that with you because that was interesting. I got that call about 15 minutes before the fight started, and I thought to myself, wow. Apparently, he stopped the gym. When I say stop the gym, meaning like fighters who work out in the gym and see pros in there all the time were actually stopped and looking at him on the pads and were gesticulating to each other and saying, wow, man, did you see that? You know, I mean, apparently he looked extremely impressive in training. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Well, I mean, I didn't get your prediction before the fight. I was predicting a repeat, but we've obviously seen the result now. How good is Zhang? How good can he be? I've seen my boy WM in there. He says that AJ will school Zhang. I know he's a big AJ fan. Obviously,
well, AJ does have a win over Zhang.
AJ did beat Zhang in the amateurs, I'm aware. But now in this stage right now, where does Zhang rank amongst these heavyweights, man? I mean, how do you see him against Fury or Wilder or AJ, or how does he get on against those guys?
If I'm in Zhang's team, and I'm pretty sure his manager and his coach and his trainers and his PR people, they're going to want the Fury fight. Because to me, that is a very winnable fight for him. I mean, not just because of what he done today, but like, you know what I mean? Fury, we all know, is not taking the sport as seriously as he should. He's not expressing interest in defending his belt. You've got to say, man, that if Zhang can get him in the ring, Zhang's got a great chance. He's got a puncher's chance for sure. And you know what I like about Zhang is that unlike a lot of heavyweights, he puts his punches together very well.
Very well.
He puts his punches together extremely well. You know what I mean? So
and
I think his Achilles heel is his gas tank.
He's 40 years old.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Say that.
Because remember, he was lighting up Hrgovic, you know? And Hrgovic was extremely lucky to get that decision. I thought Zhang won that fight. And if you notice that Hrgovic is in no rush to give him a rematch, is he?
he beat Hrgovic for me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the only thing you would say about Zhang is that he is, 41 years old now? So you do wonder how long he can go on. But surely he deserves a title shot. Surely.
I want to see him in there with Usyk. Fury,
and I'll give him a chance against any one of those guys. I'm not saying he'd beat all of them. I mean, imagine him versus Wilder. What a fight that would be. Two of the biggest punches. And I'll tell you what, I fancy Zhang. I fancy Zhang in that fight, right?
Is Zhang one of the biggest punches in the heavyweight? Is he?
Yeah, definitely, man. Have you not seen what he done to the Juggernaut? No one's done that to Joyce before.
Yeah.
And in the first fight, don't forget, he hurt Joyce badly on a couple of occasions, busted his eye up, was on the verge of knocking him out, really. And tonight, he's fulfilled that.
Well, I think the only weakness I see in Zhang is potentially his stamina. You know,
he does have a suspect gas tank.
That's really the only.
It is.
What I've seen. Yeah, because otherwise, fundamentally, he's brilliant. He's got terrific power, speed, and he just looks great. I mean,
and he's got the confidence now, isn't he? You see him beaming from ear to ear, man. He's genuinely got that confidence that he says he's calling out Fury. He's calling out everyone. He deserves a world title shot, man. It will be a great shame if he doesn't get one.
Our boy Francisco here says the top heavyweights can outbox Zhang, but Zhang is definitely a dangerous man. Good fights. So the top heavyweights, I guess you're talking about Fury, Usyk, potentially AJ. Those three, could they outbox Zhang? Wilder, I don't see him outboxing Zhang, but he's got the power to knock anyone out.
That fight with Wilder, that is a hell of a fight, man. Because can you imagine those two in there? You know what I mean?
But where do you put Zhang in the heavyweight stratosphere now? Like, there's Usyk and Fury, the top two. Yeah. Then who have you got after that? Like, how do you see it?
Probably got Wilder, AJ, and then Zhang. Isn't it? You could make an argument Ruiz should be up there, but lately Ruiz's form has not been that good. But Ruiz is dangerous on any given night. I do believe that. You got Frank Sanchez.
Did beat Zhang, obviously.
You got Frank Sanchez. You got the big Russian guy. You know what I mean? You got Efe Ajagba, but I personally think Zhang would beat Ajagba. He's a bit too polished for Ajagba. Ajagba's quite raw, rough. Listen, man, Zhang's right up there.
Yeah.
Right up there. I'd give him a chance against anyone in the division. I really would. I'm not, you know, I think he's shown that, isn't it? You have to say that. I know there's a bit of recency bias sneaking in there, but trust me, he does have skill. He has power. He has the confidence. He's got the size and the strength. Yes, the gas tank's a little bit suspect, but while he's in there pitching, he's a dangerous dude.
Michael Maxwell says here, Zhang loses to the elite of the division. He looked good against Joyce, but he's not the most athletic and he's not the youngest. Fury, Wilder, and AJ have the physicality to beat him. Usyk would be too mobile. I think Usyk, you're right, would probably be too mobile. Fury could beat him. Wilder and AJ, I'm not sure. Wilder could, but Zhang could easily beat both of them two as well. I'm not
meanwhile
as
as well.
beating Zhang now.
Meanwhile, Zhang is fighting, and a lot of those other guys are not fighting. Take away AJ. Yeah. But Wilder, Fury, and them lot, they're not fighting. Ruiz, not fighting. Frank Sanchez, not fighting. You know what I mean? So at least he's keeping active, which counts for a lot in boxing. I genuinely believe, and you know, I will admit to a bit of recency bias. I'm speaking just after I've seen him absolutely destroy Joe Joyce. So yes, I'm going to be a little bit excited about that, which I am. But from what I've seen, not just tonight, you have to go back to the previous fight as well, and the fight with Hrgovic, which, let's face it, he was winning that fight. I thought he won. I thought he got robbed. So you have to say he's right up there with the best in the division. On any given night, he could beat those guys. I really do think so. Would I make him a favourite over Usyk? Probably not. Or Fury, or even AJ. Probably not make him, especially as AJ has a win over him in the amateurs. But
I think that's a dangerous fight for AJ. I think that's a dangerous
Anyone will not win that fight. There's no way.
That's 50-50, man. I don't know, man. Maybe Zhang might be the slight favourite in that for me.
Well, in terms of recent form, yeah.
Fury and Usyk, I'd have them as favourites. But AJ right now, I don't know, man. I don't know.
But I do have it on authority that AJ used to regularly beat up Joe Joyce in sparring when they were on the Olympic team. I have that. People have told me that. People who were there have told me that consistently over a long period. And if you notice, Joe Joyce never really called out AJ, has he? Maybe it's for that reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, surely Zhang deserves a title shot. He's been calling out Fury, hasn't he?
Well, this win here puts him in line for a WBO. So I think it puts him in line for a shot against Usyk. Was the WBO, one of the WBO titles on the line, interim belts, whatever. So yeah, that puts him in line for a crack against Usyk, but Usyk's immediate mandatory is against Hrgovic, as we know. Yeah. Dubois is pushing for a rematch with Hrgovic, with Usyk, as we know. So in the meantime, what does Zhang do? You know, he wants Fury right now. He called him out afterwards. I don't know if you saw it. He called him out, man. He said, "Who wants to see me shut up Fury?" You know, that's what he said. So,
you know my feelings on Fury. I'm not his biggest fan. I'd love to see that fight. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think you'd have to make Tyson Fury favourite. But like I said, he's not fought in a while. He's not really showing any real ambition in boxing anymore, if you ask me. And meanwhile, Zhang looks very hungry for a title shot. That could be the difference. And if he unloads on Fury the way he unloaded on Joe Joyce, then he definitely has a chance. Because, as I said, what was we all being told about Joe Joyce? That he had the best chin in the division, the best stamina, all the rest of it. 40-year-old Zhang has just walked through him in consecutive fights. So that's mega impressive when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
That is very, very impressive. So it could be that the southpaw style was just all wrong for Joe Joyce. And we do know that Tyson Fury is a very capable boxer. But nevertheless, as I said, he's not being active. He's not showing any real ambition to defend his belts. He's talking about money over boxing and stuff like that. That speaks to somebody who's not totally engaged with boxing. That speaks to somebody who's got one foot out the door, if you ask me. I mean, he said himself the other day that he's not interested in defending his belt. It's all about making money for him.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do? Because he can't carry on doing this. I mean, I would imagine at WBC, even them, they've been disgraceful in this whole episode, but I'm surely even they are going to say after this so-called exhibition, I call it farce with Ngannou, they're going to say, look, man, you've got your obligation to defend your belt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess the heavyweight division has been disappointing this year. I think we can all agree on that.
It's the worst division in boxing in terms of what goes on in the ring.
That or middleweight, I would say. But in terms of the contenders that we've got at heavyweight, I mean, you put them together, you have some very exciting fights, man. And with Zhang, and big up Michael Maxwell, he says here that the mandatory is for the WBO, which is due the middle of next year. So yeah, until then, Zhang could at least have 1 or 2 more fights in between. And there's a lot of guys out there he could fight. He's a lucrative fighter right now. He's made his name over here in the UK. And, I'd love to see him in there against the likes of a Fury and AJ, anyone, while we wait for him to get that shot at the belt, if it isn't Fury. But
one thing that
I just want to say this about Joyce, man, because we're praising Zhang, and it wasn't that long ago when a lot of us were saying to each other, how does Joyce's chin hang with Wilder's power? That's how highly we were rating Joyce. He didn't look good on the eye to many, but he was getting the job done. And I just want to say again, many heavyweights have lost in dramatic fashion. They've been stopped, they've been knocked out brutally, and you calling him to retire, obviously Joyce is 38, so that could be a big factor. But I don't know, I'm a bit surprised, not majorly, because I see where you're coming from, but I'm just thinking that many heavyweights have suffered devastating defeats, and someone in Joyce's team would say to you, look, man, why should we retire? He's just got our number.
Yeah, that's right. The guys in the team who are going to make money when he fights. But I'm looking out for Joyce from a personal perspective, from somebody who cares for the guy. From a distance, because obviously I've never met Joyce, I don't know him. But I do like him as a fighter, and he seems like a good guy. And I have a genuine, care for him. I mean, I don't like to see guys get destroyed like that back to back. And like you said, Darryl, he's 38 years old. His world title ambitions are pretty much up in pieces now. Where does he go from here? I mean, who does he fight now? Well, rematch with Daniel Dubois? I mean, at this point, you have to make Daniel Dubois favourite, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe I don't know, man. I don't know. But maybe I am being a little bit reactionary. But I just looked at the first fight. He was soundly beaten in that fight. Didn't win a round, really, did he? Well, he did win a round, but you know what I'm saying. He was well beaten. And now this fight.
Let me just check if there's some audio issues there, because it's coming across a bit static. A bit static from where you are. I don't know if you can hear it on your side.
I can hear you.
You can hear me, right? Yeah, you sound a bit static. Let me know in the comments, guys, if it sounds static on Laurie's end, and then if so, we'll try and fix that. But I did a little bit to me there. But yeah, either way, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what Joyce says. I'm curious to hear his post-fight interview, to be honest. What went wrong for him? The game plan. It just seemed very, very strange coming in that heavy. Didn't really show much adjustments or anything. Got tattooed with the left again. Got stopped even earlier this time. Came in heavier, didn't look good at all. Tentative. So maybe that's where you're coming from in terms of maybe he's done,
His confidence is shot. Yeah. And what tends to happen when guys lose fights like that is that their confidence will never return to that level. I mean, people talk about AJ. They're always having to go at AJ. Oh, he's scared of his own shadow. Blah blah blah. But in that first round, especially, he did try in the second round to get it going, but he didn't really land anything of any note, did he? I think he landed a couple of jabs to the body, but there was nothing there that was, you know what I mean? You looked at that and you thought to yourself, as soon as Zhang starts to open up, this fight's over. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I just think that you're looking at a guy, man, that is definitely in the twilight of his career, coming off back-to-back defeats. His confidence looks shot. Who do you put him in with? I mean, it's going to be a massive come down, isn't it, in terms of where his career trajectory is. I mean, previously, before Zhang come along, he was talking about world title opportunities and stuff like that. He's nowhere near that now, is he?
No.
I would imagine that there's a lot of heavyweights who looked at that tonight. They're probably thinking, yeah, man, I want Joyce. You know what I mean? And that's how it goes in boxing, man. Yeah. It's a very unforgiving playground. Playground's probably not a good word for boxing, actually.
Amazing Miracle says sound is breaking up. It sounds better now from your end. So I'm hoping, Amazing Miracles, that it's okay now. It sounds a lot better than it did earlier. So if it is still bad, let me know. We'll just jump on another stream or something like that. But yeah, Barry Murray, he says in here, Joyce is done. Unfortunate, but at this age, there's no world title. Brutal, but probably true. You know?
It's true. Boxing is the most unforgiving sport. Even more so than MMA and UFC. It's a very unforgiving place. You know what I mean? And Joe Joyce is finding that out tonight.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, we'll cut this one pretty short. I mean, we've got a lot more to discuss on our show next week. We'll definitely be able to do more of a deep dive into it. But yeah, just had to get this immediate. I mean, we didn't get to do the show this week. I was in Belgium, so apologies. Guys, I was out there for work, so I wasn't able to jump on. But yeah, had to jump on here tonight. I was expecting Zhang to win this, but not that emphatically. What was your prediction going in? Because I didn't get it before this fight. Was it the same? Not hindsight.
Yeah, my prediction was that it would be repeat rather than a revenge. But I must say, I do like Joe Joyce. I was saying to a couple of friends and a couple of family members that if Joe Joyce is to win this fight tonight, then it would have been predicated on a war of attrition, meaning that you would have had to keep the earmuffs up, be prepared to lose most, if not all, of the early rounds, and hopefully come on strong. Because the one thing we do know about Zhang is that his Achilles heel is his stamina. He's had stamina problems throughout his career. He's a big guy. And you spoke about weight earlier, and I noted that he put on 10 pounds himself, which I found a bit strange he did that. Because if you won the first fight so convincingly at that weight, why would you change it? But anyway, he came in a bit heavier. So I was thinking to myself, if Joe can get out, because I knew that the early rounds would be a problem. Because Zhang does tend to start quite fast if you look at his fights. He did that with Joe Joyce in the first fight. He did it with Hrgovic. He does tend to let his hands go early. So I was thinking if Joe Joyce can somehow make out the early rounds, get past, say, 5, 6, 7, take Zhang into deep waters and hopefully win the war of attrition. But I knew he was up against it, man, because you see, the thing is about boxing is, you will know this, Daryl, as well. You've seen many fights. You've done a bit of boxing yourself. When a guy so utterly defeats you in the first fight, it's very rare that there's any difference in the rematch. Yes, sometimes, you know, I mean, we saw with Eubank and Smith the other day, it is possible to win the rematch. But then if you think about that Eubank-Smith fight, some people would argue that Eubank was winning that fight or won the first couple of rounds up until he got stopped in the fourth. He certainly wasn't being battered, was he? You know what I mean? So that was a different circumstance to this one. So I was never really confident that Joe Joyce could win it, although I did see a pathway for him to win if he could get out the early rounds. But unfortunately, he didn't do that.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I was rooting for Zhang, man. I'm being serious. I'll be keep it real. I was rooting for Zhang.
Why was you rooting for Zhang? Are you rooting against your own fellow Brit?
I just don't like how Joyce fell in love with his chin. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of the way how he fights. Just not that pleasing on the eye for me. I think Zhang's a lot more entertaining. more of a character. I think he's better for the division. I'm just being honest, man.
Well, at least you're honest. At least you're honest. But I did notice that when Zhang was leaving the ring tonight, it's one of those that he came into the ring getting booed, and he's come out the ring to cheers, stopping people wanting to take selfies. He's signing autographs. So I think he's been very well received there. I think the fans do like him. There's, you know what I mean? There's a lot to like. You know what I mean? He's big, he's strong, he can punch hard. And like I said, he's pretty skillful for a big guy. He puts his punches together well. In fact, I'm going to say that when he throws his combinations, there's probably very few, if any, in the heavyweight division that throw better combinations in it. He's got good hand speed as well.
Other than Usyk, I guess, right?
Yeah. But he throws some very educated, and that finishing shot, man. Everyone was going on about the left hand, but the finishing right hook was one of beauty.
That shot there,
face first like that, you thought there's no way you're getting up, bro.
That was it got a rare ooh from me. That did. I was like, oh, it was one of them, you know.
If he lands that shot on any other heavyweight, I think they're going down. Some of them might get back up. But I think
Joyce has never been down in his career.
I know. Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
That tells me primarily that he's finished. I mean, listen, let's be hypothetical now, right? So I want him to retire, but he probably won't. You think he probably won't as well. But if you're in his brains trust, you're in his corner, you're his promoter, who would you put him in with next? It's got to be someone meaningful, because a guy like that can't drop down to 8-round fights, can it? So who are you going to...
I'd push for AJ. If I'm Joyce, I'd push for AJ. Two Brit Nigerians. That's basically what we have here. British Nigerians going at it. They've got history. That would be the one I would try and get. Not saying you get it.
But what I'm saying, would AJ want that fight though? Because if you're AJ, what do you get from that? Because if AJ beats him, you're going to say, oh, you're just picking on Joyce because you're just feeding off Zhang's leftovers. So really, and plus they've got two different promotional teams, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, which they don't exactly get along. So the chances of that fight being made are less likely. Come up with something else. Who's he going to fight?
Well, if not AJ, I'd try and target Wilder. You know, Wilder's been out the ring for a year. That would be a good redemption win for him. It's a big risk. I'm not saying he wins.
If you're in Joe Joyce's brains trust, are you going to want to put him in with another deadly punch? Wilder arguably hits harder than Zhang. So why would you want to do that to him? I think the only fight out there that I could see that makes sense is a possible rematch with Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean,
and even that, it's not really.
Do you want to see that? I'm not bothered about that.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. He's So then you're saying he's got to start from scratch at 38 years old, fighting for peanuts against guys that are going to look at him as a way for them to clout chase. You know what I mean?
We'll see what happens. But before we go, just give me your thoughts on Moses Atuma.
I like him. Yeah. I mean, it's still very early in his career, man. What is he, 19, 20?
18, 19?
Something like that, man. So he's got years to go, but he looks really good. But, I mean, you know, it will be 3, 4, 5 years before he fights anyone meaningful. Yeah. And that's probably a good thing. I mean, all this stuff about wanting to break Tyson's record, allow that. Yeah, just concentrate on doing what you're doing, learn the ropes, because he did have a very good amateur career, but it's largely at junior level. I don't think he had any senior fights. You know what I mean? As good as he was as an amateur, he wasn't fighting the top guys. You know what I mean? So he's got a lot of learning to do, a lot of maturing to do. Even his body looks a bit fleshy at the moment. It's probably got a lot of, you know what I mean, puppy fat, dare I say it. He will get bigger, stronger, more mature, more powerful, more skillful. He's got a long way to go, but the future is bright for him, without a doubt.
Okay.
Like I said, Joyce, to me, someone needs to be sitting him down and saying, look, Joe, do you really think it's a good idea? He'll probably say, yeah, it was just a bad night. You know what boxers like, man? They're delusional in that regard. And like I said, it's that same delusion that carries a lot of them to the heights. It can also be their biggest downfall, it being acceptance of defeat. It's like Errol Spence. As I said, this man's going after Crawford in a rematch. I mean, come on, man. Huh. There's absolutely no justification for a rematch. You've got absolutely beaten from pillar to post. You probably didn't want to see that.
Nah.
Outside of your hardcore Errol Spence fans. That would be like Joe Joyce wanting to come back to the ring. You got to be like a real hardcore Joe Joyce fan to really want to see that. But those of
I want to see his post-fight presser. Michael Maxwell says here, hopefully his mum can talk him into retirement about Joe Joyce. But yeah, well, I mean, we'll see the post-fight presser and then see what his reaction is.
He won't retire. We all know that he won't retire.
He won't retire, nah. He won't retire. I don't think he will.
But to me, I think he should seriously consider it.
Let's chop it up next week anyway. Once we get a bit more reaction from the fight. Obviously, we've got a big one to look forward to next week as well with Canelo and Charlo. So we've got a lot to chop up there as well. But in the meantime, yeah, guys, it's 12
There's a good fight taking place tonight, actually, over in America. Richardson Hitchens is a young up-and-coming prospect at light welter or lightweight. He's fighting Jose Cepeda.
Yeah.
Mexican guy. Big puncher, good fighter. Regis Prograis beat him to win the world title, but he's amongst the top guys in that division, so that would be a good fight. I mean, Richardson Hitchens is looking to try and get a win over him that will, catapult him into the top names of the division. So in many ways, it's what they call a crossroads fight. That's a good fight. Sandy Ryan's fighting as well. Jessica McCaskill. I think that would be a decent fight.
I'm going to watch in the morning.
Return of your favourite UK fighter.
Yeah, we're not even going to bother talking about him, but I'll watch that in the morning. But yeah, we'll chop it up on that about it more next week. But yeah, it's 12 o'clock, man. So we'll let you guys go. And yeah, guys, we'll catch you all next week. Thank you all for tuning in. Joe Joyce getting absolutely destroyed by Zhang in 3 rounds in the rematch. Laurie says he should retire. Let's see what happens, man. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a good evening, and we'll see you guys next week.